This story is legit terrifying. You're looking at Danilo Cavalcante, a 34-year-old native of Brazil. He's been living in the US, and a while back in Pennsylvania, he went over to the house of his 33-year-old ex-girlfriend Deborah. In front of her two young children, he threw her to the ground and stabbed her 38 times, leaving her to bleed to death. He was arrested hours later, and investigators believed he was trying to flee the country. At trial, prosecutors alleged he didn't want Deborah to tell the cops that he was wanted for murder in Brazil after he shot someone in a cafeteria back in 2017. And just 3 weeks ago, he was convicted of first-degree murder in Deborah's killing. Danilo was sent to prison for life without parole, but things took a dangerous turn last week in Pennsylvania.
As you know, on the morning of Thursday, August 31st, inmate Danilo Cavalcante escaped from the Chester County Prison.
Media report that Danilo was somehow able to make his way onto the roof of the prison and escape, and since then, a massive manhunt has been underway to catch the convicted killer. This surveillance camera from Saturday spotted him less than 2 miles away from the prison, and on Monday, a trail camera captured him on the property of a botanical garden. Now, nearly a week into his escape, that botanical garden has closed to the public, and schools around Chester County have shut down out of an abundance of caution. Danilo has been spotted at least 5 times, and police say more than 200 people are on the ground at any given time trying to find the man. He's about 5 feet tall with curly black hair, and officials warn he is incredibly dangerous and desperate not to get caught. There's a $10,000 combined award from Chester County and U.S. Marshals for any information that leads to his arrest. Stay safe out there.
Well, that's evidently crazy to see that this guy is moving the way he's moving, and they got hundreds and hundreds of people on the ground looking for this guy. Now, if he's so dangerous, how is he standing off the grid, as they call it? How is he not being seen and nobody knowing anything about where he's at? So it's like, if you see this guy here or there, you got all these people everywhere. Why can't y'all just go get him? So, man, my condolences goes out to that lady, because I know it's a lot of people who loved her. She didn't deserve to die because she had kids, but at the same time, if she knew this dude was a murderer from Brazil, and man, that's just crazy. So y'all just know who y'all partners is and who y'all get involved with.
Keys died doing what he loved. Killing. Israel Keys, he is not a nice man, and he did a lot of unpleasant things. On February 1st, 2012, 18-year-old Samantha Koenig was working the late shift at the Common Grounds Espresso coffee stand in Anchorage, Alaska. Israel Keys pulled over his face a mask and approached the Common Grounds coffee stand. He planned on robbing the place, but he didn't even know how many people worked there. Unfortunately, it was just Samantha. He walked up and calmly ordered an Americano. Samantha prepared the drink, but when she turned around to hand it to him, Keys pointed a handgun at her. He told her to turn off the lights, and then climbed through the window and inside the coffee stand. He told her to get on her knees. As he bound her, she said her father was going to be there at any moment to pick her up. He hesitated, but eventually pushed her, gagged, out the door to his car. He put her in.
Man, that's crazy. This guy go into the coffee shop, pull out a gun, man, and you do this to her. Now, I don't know if she said this. I don't know if she said this to scare him away. But if her dad was really about to pull up, she shouldn't have said nothing. She should have just kind of, tried to keep him there as long as she can. But I'm going to shut my mouth and we going to see how this thing, play out.
He put her in the passenger seat and told her he was going to hold her for ransom. He drove to his house. Israel Keys was born in 1978 in Richmond, Utah, to parents who were Mormon and was homeschooled. When the family moved to the state of Washington, they began to attend the Ark, a Christian identity church with pretty racist and anti-Semitic views. He later admitted to sexually assaulting a young girl in Oregon sometime between 1996 and 1998, when he would have been 18 to 20 years old. He said his first murder victim was in 2001, while he lived in Nia Bay, Washington. though it is unknown who his first victim was. Keyes further claimed he had committed 4 murders in total while living in Washington state from 2001 to 2007, but gave investigators very little to go on, alluding to 2 separate murders in either 2005 or 2006. Israel Keyes planned murders well in advance and took extraordinary action to avoid detection. He placed murder bags around the country filled with shovels, guns, and ammunition. Keyes would later admit to kidnapping a woman on the East Coast in April 2009, who he said was taken across state lines and buried in upstate New York. Authorities suspect the victim may have been 49-year-old Deborah Feldman. Also around that time, Keyes robbed a bank in Tupper Lake, New York. In June 2011, Israel Keyes flew from Alaska to Chicago, and then rented a car and drove more than 900 miles to the small town of Essex, Vermont. On the night of June 8th, Keyes broke into the home of Bill and Lorraine Currier, subdued them, took them to another location where he shot Bill and sexually assaulted Lorraine before strangling her. Israel Keyes never gave law.
Man, this guy just going all around the state, all around the country, all around cities, doing this sick ass stuff, man. I mean, man, you done killed the husband, did some crazy stuff to this beautiful soul right here. After taking a beautiful soul, like, this is really what you wanted to be as a kid and what you wanted to grow up doing. Because anybody who think like this, act like this is who they are. And it's just crazy to see how many people he's taking on his ride and on his road of destruction.
Keyes never gave law enforcement an exact number of his victims. It's believed to be around 12. But it would be his last victim, Samantha Koenig, that would prove to be his undoing. After taking her, Keyes drove Samantha to the house he shared with his girlfriend and young daughter, and tied her up in a shed next to the house. He managed to do this unnoticed, somehow, by his girlfriend. He told Samantha he would kill her if she screamed, and then he turned on the radio in the shed to cover up any noise she made. He then left, and, after getting information from Samantha, he broke into Samantha's boyfriend's truck and stole her debit card. His plan was to ransom her and then have the ransom paid into her bank account, and he would withdraw from it. He then returned to his house, poured himself a glass of wine, and went back to the shed. He then sexually assaulted her while choking her, till he killed her. In early March, Keyes flew to Las Vegas, rented a car, and drove to Arizona, where he used Samantha's debit card to withdraw $400. Keyes wore a disguise when he made the transactions, but an ATM security camera recorded an image of the white Ford Focus rental car he was driving. The image did not capture the license plate, but it was clear enough to determine the make and model of the car. 2 days later, on March 9th, Keyes withdrew money from an ATM in Texas, and the FBI alerted Texas law enforcement officials to be on the lookout for a white Ford Focus. On March 13th, a Texas highway patrolman spotted a white Ford Focus parked at a motel. When Keyes left the motel, the officer followed him and noticed the car was traveling 3 miles over the speed limit. They arrested Israel Keyes, and a few days later they flew him back to Anchorage. At first, Israel Keyes refused to talk to investigators, but on March 31st he admitted to abducting Samantha Koenig from the coffee stand. When the federal prosecutor pressed Keyes on whether or not Samantha was dead or alive, he told him she was dead. He said, "I'll tell you everything you want to know. I'll give it blow by blow if you want. I have lots more stories to tell."
He been doing this and thinking like this ever since he was a kid. Talking about the first time you did something when you was 18 or 19 or 20 or whatever. So you've been thinking about this for quite a long time now. And it's quite disturbing that you was going to school and, you know what I'm saying, around people with this type of mind frame.
He did agree to tell the investigators the details of the abduction and murder of Samantha Koenig, as well as where to find her body. And a few days later, police recovered her remains from Matanuska Lake. On May 23rd, Keyes appeared before a United States District Judge in a federal court for a hearing to set a trial date. Partway through the hearing, Keyes broke free from his steel leg shackles and jumped over the railing into the first row of seats in the gallery area. Deputies tackled Keyes and used a taser to subdue him. Investigators who questioned Keyes said he was arrogant and sometimes seemed bored while relating the details of his crimes. But when talking about an abduction or murder, he'd get excited and sit on the edge of his seat. In late November, Keyes met again with investigators, but by the end of the interview, he seemed distracted and told them he might be willing to talk to them the following week. 2 days later, at 5:57 a.m., a prison guard performing a security check noticed a strange red-colored streak on the floor of cell 3. Israel Keyes was found lying face down in his cell, covered in blood. He was pronounced dead at 6:13 a.m. He had slit open his left wrist along the vein, and a razor blade attached to a pencil was found under his body. Israel Keyes died doing what he loved: killing. And so ends the long, tragic, and horrific story of Israel Keyes, psychopath, murderer, and someone who held the key information on a long list of cold cases that will now likely never be solved.
Well, I guess the coward did what he felt like was right, and justice got him as it should, because he was locked up, fighting with his own guilt of all the things that he did, and the next thing you know, he slit his wrist. Slowly dying, inside crying, knowing how messed up and evil he was, and boom, he was in hell. So, let this be a lesson. Hopefully y'all can teach somebody on how to be a good person. Hopefully y'all can teach somebody on why it's important to be a good person. Because man, all these beautiful souls that was in this monstrous path is just so sad.
As it turns out, it's not a great strategy to try to overthrow democracy. This is Enrique Tarrio, leader of the Proud Boys, a racist, neo-fascist, exclusively male, far-right militant organization that routinely engages in political violence. He was instrumental in planning the failed coup attempt on January 6th, and now he's just been handed the longest prison sentence to date in the case for his role in the attack. 22 years in prison for seditious conspiracy and leading a failed plot to prevent the transfer of power from Trump to Biden. That day, rioters physically attacked police, invaded the Capitol, and chanted "Hang Mike Pence" while a gallows was erected outside the building. Tarrio had previously been arrested days before January 6th for burning a church's BLM banner. 3 other members of the Proud Boys have also been found guilty for seditious conspiracy. And now, Trump's gotta be worried as he's facing 4 charges himself stemming from the failed coup attempt on January 6th.
Now that's crazy. They gave this dude right here 22 years. That's a very long time, man. 22 years. And he probably already in his 40s. So he gonna be like 60 when he get out. And that is why you don't do stupid stuff, because what's the point? Are you trying to provide for your family because you don't want to be on Skid Row or places like that? You know what I'm saying? Because of how everything is so high. So why are you putting yourself in situations like that ain't really gaining you nothing? Yeah, we're gonna know what you look like, but goddamn, 22 years of your life?